Hey there.
How are you doing today? Good. Good. Sorry. I just got out of a meeting, so.
Elizabeth, are you talking? I couldn't hear you.
Um, can you hear me now?
Now it's a little bit louder.
Can you hear background noise or no?
I can't.
Can?
Nope, I can't.
Okay, sorry. Well, hello. I just got out of a meeting, sorry. I was rushing to get in here. Did everyone vote for their favorite team name? If not, the link's up at the top of this chat. It says vote here. And I also have a gift for everyone. Think you guys will like it. We did some meditation last week. So we have a little friend here. I don't know if anyone has seen it. He lights up. So he's going.
It's a Buddha.
And if you put him on fade,
It looks like
then
a Buddha.
it, well,
Is this a new night light?
it can be. If you hit his, yeah, it changes colors. Well, and the other thing is that if you use, it comes with a little remote, and this one I can actually kind of use, but it has a fade on there, so it's like the second one from the right side. And if you fade, put that on, then maybe I can use this. Um,
So this is a new sound machine.
So it's not it's not a sound machine, but it does change colors and fades into colors. And if you do that, you can breathe in like 3 colors, hold for 2, breathe out for 5. I'm just kidding.
Love it.
but but it's kind of
So
neat. I don't know.
are you like displaying this because we're all getting one, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
This
for
is good.
clarifying. Who was that? That
He's
must have been Lori.
cute. Yes, I love it. So
Yeah. So if you want, I can give you guys some little eyelashes. You can throw on them, maybe a little wig. You
we
know.
want the whole thing, the whole deal.
Exactly.
All of us too.
Yeah, we should come up with the most creative Buddha.
You should have a competition to decorate it.
Wouldn't that be cool? Yeah.
You can totally dress mine up and send it to me.
Yeah. Elizabeth, my grandchildren, I got them something very similar like that from Amazon, and it fades colors and stuff, and they love it. It's like a nighttime and an alarm and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah,
They just
and when
love it.
you
Very
when you
soft.
need to sit at your desk and just you just got out of that meeting or that phone call. I'm trying to like get the colors going, and I don't know, something about this thing. He's acting up today. So I'll figure it out. Yeah. So anyways, yours will work. It might just be operator error because I have no idea. Please remote. I think Matt knows that. All right. We have enough people in the room?
Yeah, I think so. 51.
Thanks for joining today. All right. So next week we are going to be at the Haco cafeteria. We are going to be in person only next Wednesday for your points. All right. And we'll be doing, I'll let Matt tell you.
We're going to do a move session next week. So it won't be sweaty type of move, but it will be move where we work a little bit in a work environment type of a setting.
And while we're here, I just wanted to ask, so we normally have sultans from downtown for our end of challenge luncheon. How does that sound to people, or would you rather have something else? If you can put your comments in the chat, that would be great. But if you guys want to raise your hand, that would be fine too. If that's good, thumbs up, whatever. Yeah, just let me know, and I'll hand it over to Matt, and we can get started.
I see grape leaves already. I see grape leaves. I'm already in a good mood.
All right.
Let me, how do I'm going to exit spotlight. All right, you should all see me. Okay, well, welcome back to it's turning into a little virtual session, but I think this is a better way to kind of do some of the instruction, just because everybody's in that hybrid mode, some in person, some virtual. I can kind of control the slides and the presentation. But in the chat, I asked a couple questions, and it was kind of interesting to see some answers. I saw 4.5 hours for an answer of our average sleep time. I saw 8.5. I saw bedtime at 9 p.m. I'm not sure who was able to get to bed by 9, but those are all nice dreams. But I'm going to throw out a number today. The number is 11:39 p.m. That's the average bedtime in the United States. And you can kind of work backwards and think about your schedule, your day, the things you have to get done. And the goal is going to be, how do we get to 8 hours? Over the last 60 years, we've gone from about 8.5 to 9 hours. To today, less than 6.5 hours is the average amount of sleep duration. Now, in that sleep duration, everybody has different qualities. So you could be in your bed for 8 hours, but how much you're sleeping can vary from person to person. The wearables, the Whoop, different types of trackers can give us that. But I'm going to throw out the 11:39. You now know what the average bedtime is, and that's not going to set us up for success, knowing that most people have to wake up around 6, 7 a.m. Because our goal is going to be, how do we get to 8 hours? And I'm going to make the case over this next 30 minutes of why we need 8 hours of sleep. My first kind of aha moment, my first wake-up call around sleep was when I was first studying it. Even through school, I never really learned why you need to sleep. You know, you kind of know, because if you don't sleep, you don't feel very good. You're tired, you're foggy. But nobody ever explained, like, what is the purpose of sleep? And I went to school for this. And so I think one of the urgent things, one of the areas you should be teaching your kids, your grandkids, your colleagues, is that, what if I told you that 8 hours of sleep is the number one preventer of cancer of anything you do? So what if I told you 8 hours of sleep is the number one preventer of cancer of anything you do when it comes to your health? I think we would all prioritize it a little bit differently. Now that I've said it, though, doesn't make it any easier. Doesn't necessarily mean that any of you are going to change any behaviors. But I think that's an important element. We've all been touched by cancer in different ways, but yet we're sleeping 6.5 hours a night, and we're expecting that we're going to prevent disease and illness down the road. If you're here today, you're probably going to live in your 80s and your 90s. And I think one of the two things we're scared of when it comes to our health is cancer and brain issues. I'm going to show you 8 hours of sleep is the number one preventer of cancer and the number one way to protect our brain as we age. And the magic number is 8 hours.
You're tired. You get weird when you get tired. Let's just find a motel. I don't want you dozing off.
I'm not tired. Are you kidding? Go another 100 miles. Come on. No problem.
So it kind of sets us up. We all kind of have been there in a time or two, but what is the impact of sleep deprivation? I think the big one, and this leads to why it helps with preventing cancer, is it reduces our immunity. It reduces our powerful defense mechanism called our immune system. You may have never heard this. You've heard of the lymphatic system, hopefully. Maybe you haven't. You don't need to. It's not about, you have enough on your plate then to learn physiology. But when you sleep, you have this thing called the glymphatic system. And the glymphatic system is the sewer system for your brain. And that's where you can flush all these toxins that we all create. We all have toxins. But if we lack sleep, we're going to reduce our immune system. That's an important piece. That is going to lead to more infections, more symptoms of that weakened immune system. Autoimmune issues have never been higher. Going to increase illnesses, the common cold, the common flu. Maybe you're having arthritis. Maybe you're going to have different cues and clues that are showing up in the body. And then you're going to have these appetite issues because we release these hormones called ghrelin and leptin when we sleep or when we don't sleep. And these kind of make us satisfied or hungry. So you're going to consume more if you don't sleep the amount, which leads to weight gain. And really kind of the goal is, why do we sleep? Well, it's for our mental health. It's for our energies, for our hormones. Helping with anxiety has never been higher. Blood pressure, weight loss. Digestion's a big one. Immune system. The brain, protecting that brain. Sleep is a big deal. And I think in our society, we're trying to hack sleep. We're trying to expect it. I think we feel like we're privileged to having 8 hours of sleep. If we don't do certain things, our society is going to set us up for failure when it comes to sleep. We're overstressed, over-processed foods. We have all these artificial lights, these dings, these pings, these notifications. And maybe I've shared this with you before, but I always like to share this kind of magazine ad for a mattress. And so this mattress company, and there's a bazillion mattress companies now, they're kind of saying, well, the mattress is the problem. Well, think about 1940, 1950. We didn't have any issue with sleep. Go back in time. Go back to your grandparents or your parents' house where they're on a mattress that they've had for 50, 60 years. Nobody was really saying, I'm struggling to sleep with that crummy mattress. Yet in this ad, this beautiful woman, she's hunched over on her bed with horrible posture, looking at her computer, and she's telling you, or this ad's telling us, that it's the mattress's fault. It's not the mattress's fault. The problem here is that you're working in your bed, hunched over with horrible posture, but yet you have those blue light blocking glasses that's going to solve everything. We're overstimulated. We don't have a society where we prioritize sleep. It's kind of wild that we all have different times that we go to bed. And so this creating these habits, these rituals, really is our only armor to get that quality sleep that I believe we deserve and are capable of. But I think one of the missing pieces, and you've heard me talk about this over and over again, is the rest, eat, move. If we're trying to improve rest, the food we eat also does dictate that. So one of the elements that we need for sleep is called melatonin. Just raise your hand in the presentation here. How many have heard of melatonin? How many of you know, though, that you need to produce serotonin to create melatonin? So melatonin, we kind of know how to produce melatonin when we're outside in the sunlight. It stimulates the pineal gland. The pineal gland starts to make melatonin at the end of the day. And so we start to fall asleep. Well, what if you're not eating starchy, complex carbohydrates? You don't produce serotonin. Serotonin makes us happy, but it's one of the pre neurotransmitters to create melatonin. And so why am I showing you this? Because if you're just, for example, not maybe paying attention to the food you're eating, yet you're expecting to get good quality sleep, there's a connection there that matters. The gut-brain connection is really powerful. Carbohydrates are essential to produce serotonin, and that serotonin helps us make melatonin. One last piece. I don't recommend anyone, especially for your kids, taking melatonin supplements. Melatonin is only meant to help us fall asleep at the end of the day. And if we start to take it synthetically, the body starts to not produce it naturally, and that will lead us to a dependency on melatonin down the road. Again, 2 ways to get melatonin: making sure you're going to bed at the same time, getting real sunlight, and then if you're really trying to hack it and get the body to fall asleep, a hot shower or a hot bath raises our melatonin level before we go to bed. But foods we eat are really important when it comes to sleep. So this is kind of my wheel around sleep. Number 1, we have to value it. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you value your sleep today? Throw that in the chat. I'm 38 years old. I would say I value sleep today about 9.5. It's super high on my list. Now, when I was 20, 25, before kids, I would say I valued my sleep, and I've always valued my sleep pretty high, but I would say it's somewhere around 7 or 8. Think back to your 20s. How many of you valued sleep to the same amount that you do today? So number 1, we have to value it. If we're not valuing it, we're not going to prioritize it, and we're not going to prioritize it. Like I said, sleep gets harder, but more valuable as you age. Are you planning your sleep? So when I'm thinking about my week, my wife's going out of town tomorrow. I'm not sure she checked the schedule because it's Masters Week. She shouldn't be disrupting me on Masters Week, but she's leaving Wednesday, coming back Sunday. I have work, I have kids, I got responsibilities. I'm going to kind of look at my week and say, how am I going to plan my sleep? Where am I going to exercise? Where am I going to make sure I get into my work life? Where am I going to get to my personal life? Are you planning your sleep just like you plan anything else? So if you don't know when you're expecting to go to bed or when you're expecting to wake up, it's going to be really hard to get that 8 hours of sleep. The environment's going to be a big deal. Dark, cool, quiet. Do you have the right shades? Do you have the right blanket? Is the temperature in the room okay? Are you using a sound machine? Is there too many lights, like from your Apple TV or your clocks or your alarm clocks? I don't use an alarm clock. I use what's called a dumb alarm clock. It's a very low light alarm clock, and if I do need an alarm clock, it wakes me up very naturally and slow. I'm going to talk about magnesium. Magnesium is a relaxation mineral. 2 challenges with sleep: can't fall asleep or can't stay asleep. Magnesium really helps us to stay asleep. And then movement. Why is movement important to sleep? Well, we're designed to move. And then screen time. These are some of the priorities around getting better sleep. But I do think it's important to kind of go back to the why. Why do we sleep? What's it doing? Because it starts to help us think about it. And now I'm hungry because somebody's sharing a salad, so thanks for sharing that, Lisa. But the stages of sleep. Stage 1 is transitioning to sleep. Stage 2 is when we spend the most amount of time in sleep. Now, here's the thing. I do drink alcohol, but back to planning. If I know that I'm going to be socializing on the weekend on a Saturday, I'm going to really structure my week around sleep because my sleep is going to be impacted Saturday night. We only get stage 1 and 2 when we drink alcohol. We get very little stage 3 and stage 4. So stage 4 is when the body heals itself. This is deep sleep. This happens early on in the night. If you go to bed too late, you really bypass this deep sleep. Think about inflammation, repair, damage, injuries, arthritis, aches and pains, muscular strength, balance. That's what happens with deep sleep, and that happens in the first part of the night. Stage 4 is called rapid eye movement. This is when our brain heals itself. This is where those cancer prevention mechanisms come in. This is the most important part of sleep. All of sleep is important. This is the most important part. This is why 8 hours is the magic number. Look at this graph. You get very little rapid eye movement with 4 hours of sleep. As you sleep throughout the night, you get more rapid eye movement because it happens at the end of an 8-hour period. But the magic number is 8 hours because the last 2 hours of an 8-hour period, you get the most amount of rapid eye movement. That's why you don't want to set an alarm clock that wakes you up right in rapid eye movement. It's going to make you feel tired even if you got 8 hours of sleep. And so looking at this, thinking, okay, I'm getting 6 hours or 7 hours, imagine how much better you could feel, perform, or preventing disease and illness if you were prioritizing getting that 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Again, this isn't easy. It's simple. It's not easy. We have to start thinking about it in a different way. Now I'm going to go full screen on this for a second. It's a little more complicated, but it's not once you look at it closely. One of the questions I get mad, I wake up and go to the bathroom. Is that a problem? It's not a problem. We wake up between 3 to 5 times a night. Those blue dots are when you wake up. And when you wake up, it's just transition from one sleep cycle to the next. Maybe you have to go to the bathroom, and if you fall back asleep, not a big deal. Ricky, do you have a question?
Yeah, just on those steps that you had, like, do you know, like, approximately, like, how long it would take to get into each one of those steps? Like, going from step 1 to step 2, like, how many hours of sleep that is?
That's a great question. And so that's what this slide's going to show us here. So when you look at this, you go through each cycle every 90 to 110 minutes. So as you go through the night, you're going to start getting into these cycles at a different clip. And so you see, you start your wake, that's the blue. You move to the orange, that's stage 1, and then you move to the yellow. Once you move to the yellow, in the early part of sleep, you spend more of your time in deep sleep. You don't get very little. You don't get any REM sleep in that first cycle, for example. And then you go back to stage 2, and then you ramp up and you start to get REM sleep. My point in showing you this in the early part of the night, so think about cycle 1, cycle 2, cycle 3, that's where you get the most deep sleep. That's why you want to go to bed on time. You want to recover the body. Occasionally we don't, but you want to go to bed early enough so that the body can recover. As you go through the night, you actually start to skip stage 1. You start to get through stage 2, and you start to sleep less with that deep sleep, and you go into that rapid eye movement. So the green dots shrink, the red dots expand, and we actually don't need to go through that stage 1 unless you awaken for some reason, but it's really quickly. So to answer your question, Ricky, every 90 to 110 minutes, we go through each cycle, and we go through about 5 cycles if we're getting that 8 hours of sleep. You can see if I'm only getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep, we're going to skip some cycles, which is going to skip some of those pieces of sleep. I like to show this because it kind of shows us that we're just not laying there on the pillow. We're actually going through different phases, and these phases all have a point. And that's why over the span of 8 hours, it's a magical thing that we do called sleep. Yet the average American is sleeping 6.5 hours. So that's an important element. Yeah, a question about napping. I'm a huge fan of napping, but napping is really meant to refresh the brain. You're not really going to get in rapid eye movement. It's not deep sleep. And if it impacts our actual sleep, it's going to be a problem. But if you're taking a 20-minute nap to refresh the mind and you're still getting 7 to 8 hours at night, it can be fantastic. Now, let's just say you're traveling or your sleep gets disrupted and you need a nap to kind of refresh. Don't think of naps as the villain. Use naps as kind of a little bit of a tool to use when you need to refresh. But you can't make up that 8-hour period by taking a 1 hour, 2 hour nap throughout the week. I'll have to look up where they get the most amount of sleep. I'm gonna guess that's gonna be in the colder climates, kind of the hibernation. So I'm guessing like Greenland and some areas like that are cold. But I'd have to look that up. It's a great question. So the question, Lisa, is, but when I do go to bed early, I wake up early and it takes hours to go back to sleep. Um, Possibly. So if our circadian rhythm gets out of balance, that can be the problem. And so if you do it once or twice, sure, that could happen. But what I'm talking about is creating rituals and habits around that bedtime. And I'll get to circadian rhythm in a second. So two challenges: Matt, I can't fall asleep, or Matt, I can't stay asleep. Let's start with I can't stay asleep. And so one of the things, if you're trying to really expand the amount of sleep you're getting, the quality, I really highly look at consuming foods with the mineral magnesium. Chia seeds, dates, raisins, figs, these all have high magnesium. I don't recommend a magnesium supplement, even though it's a very common supplement. You see it advertised, even there's a brand called Calm. I recommend getting your magnesium from food. So look up foods, try to eat more of those foods. And then number 2 is take an Epsom salt bath. Epsom salts are pure magnesium. It actually does two things. When you take a Epsom salt bath or an Epsom salt foot bath, it helps us relax. So we're kind of creating some white space, some micro breaks. But it also absorbs through your skin, giving yourself the magnesium to stay asleep. So if you're out there and you're saying, Matt, I've never been able to sleep 8 hours, or lately I'm waking up 2, 3 a.m. and I'm hot. It's kind of gross, but you hear about night sweats and hormones are out of balance, or maybe you're having hot flashes, whatever is happening. Magnesium is a really good mineral to keep the body relaxed and calm. And so a 20-minute foot bath or a regular bath is a great way to get magnesium. If you can't fall asleep, it's back to that melatonin, back to that circadian rhythm. You're probably overstimulated going to bed. So maybe you get ready for bed and you flip open your phone and you're checking texts and emails and social media, and that blue light device actually delays circadian rhythm about 60 to 90 minutes. So what happens is people miss their window to go to bed. And that's why the bedtime is 11:39, because most people are starting to get tired around 9:30, but they stimulate themselves to get to 11:39. So these are a couple things to get to bed. I have the Oura Ring, and it's completely changed my outlook on the importance of sleep. Insightful based. Yeah, actually, out of all of them, Oura Ring I think is the best. I also do believe that some of these devices can stress certain people out. So I think it is a balancing act of self-awareness, knowing where I'm at, and then also I don't have to track it maybe every day unless I'm really interested in that data, because some people get too fanatical about those numbers. Great point. What about taking magnesium supplement? Again, I highly recommend not taking a synthetic magnesium supplement. It's really hard to absorb, and so you're going to spend a lot of money, and the absorbability is really low versus if I can get it from food or Epsom salts. Good question, Courtney. So we got to create space. So just like food, if I spend my day, think about this. I'm guilty of this when it impacts my sleep. From 1940 to 2008, we had 5 hours of white space, but we also had 8 hours of sleep. But those things are correlated. They're connected. They play off each other. In 2007, the iPhones get created, and we started to spend more time on our phones. That's that red screen time. We started to sleep less. Now, it didn't happen overnight. And then we only had 3 hours of white space. What happens now, though, is if we're spending a lot of time on our screens, it's going to decrease the ability for us to relax and calm the mind and the body. And if we only have 1 hour of white space, we can be exhausted. And the minute our head hits the pillow, our brain goes crazy. Now, this is a true story. This week, my wife is going out of town Wednesday. You know, as a mom, you have all these things on your mind, and even as a father and a parent, or just in general. And so we're both tired, and her head hits the pillow, and she's like, I can't fall asleep. I have 50 million things to take care of. Well, not to air her dirty laundry, but she was trying to do all these things on her phone before bed and got exhausted. And then the minute she hits the pillow, she didn't really give herself a transition. Here's my point. If we don't have enough space, it's going to be really hard for us to have that quality sleep. So what we do throughout our day, what we're doing in our life, not just around sleep, is going to dictate the quality of sleep. And screens are a big deal. So I wrote a blog that if your screen time is close to your sleep time, you're going to have a lot of issues. Anxiety is probably going to be the number one thing. Some people can cope with it, some people can't. Anxiety is at the all-time high. Everywhere you look, it doesn't matter if it's your 8-year-old kid or your parents or your grandparents. There's more anxiety than ever before. We know what's happening in a different country that we will never visit at a blink of an eye. And so screen time is an important thing to monitor, to minimize, to lead to sleep. And then, hormones are really one of the most powerful things that sleep can coordinate. So what a hormone is, it's a chemical messenger that plays this orchestra in the body. And so you've heard of GLP-1. This is the glucagon-like peptide hormone. And during sleep, we produce glucagon-like peptide hormone. That's one of the jobs of ghrelin and leptin. It's to communicate. Do I need to eat food or not eat food? Should I have an appetite or not have an appetite? Do I turn on the metabolism? Do I turn off the metabolism? Sleep helps with these hormones. You have this endocrine system, these glands. Think about your thyroid. Thyroid issues have never been worse. These hormones, thyroid is the stress gland. And if you're not sleeping, you're not communicating to those glands. And so just a little bit of a kind of idea here. The pituitary gland, this is where estrogen's made for females, testosterone for men. Again, it's sleep that communicates that. The pineal gland, it's melatonin. I can't stress this enough. If you're not getting sunlight every single day, that melatonin can't naturally be produced and your circadian rhythm's going to get off. Think about when you go on vacation and you're outside at the beach or walking or hiking, or you don't have your phone or your computer, or you're not staring at these things. Sleep starts to not become an issue. So if I put you in a remote area for a week, you find that most people correct their sleep issues, whether it's sleep apnea or insomnia or not staying asleep. Again, back to thyroid. This is your metabolism. The thyroid is your stress gland. And so a lot of people that are overstressed, not having the recovery, that's where you start to get the thyroid stimulating hormonal path medication. Some people start to take out the thyroid because of issues. Thyroid cancer is at all-time high. The parathyroid, this is bone health. So as a female, as you age, your bone density decreases as well. Sleep is one of the ways it communicates to absorb that calcium and phosphorus. The thymus is your immune system. I talked about the importance of the immune system. Your adrenals, cortisol, adrenaline, pancreas, type 2 diabetes, insulin, glucagon, these regulate your sugars. So it's important. And one of the ways you can regulate is to control that stress, which leads to less stress equals better sleep. And so how you breathe, we did that last week. How many of you, share of hands, be honest, how many of you worked on your breathing since our last session last week? Okay, so here's a better question. How many of you have had stress since last week? So just remember that breathing tool you have at your disposal, that alternating nostril breathing, in through your left nostril, out through your left nostril, going back and forth. These are some tools we have, and these also help with improving that sleep. So as I wrap up, I'll open up for Q&A here. I can't change the slide, so I apologize, but it will change in a second. I think you can tell from my passion. I think everybody needs to reprioritize sleep in 2025. I tell my kids, I have 3 kids, 8, 7, and 5. Out of anything that I think I can gift them is to help them create a sleep schedule, regimen that they can have the rest of their life. Now there's sporting events and school events and different things that come up that dictate schedules and alignments. And I know some of you have work schedules and whatever the challenges we all have. But creating these habits, these rituals around sleep has never been more important. We have more amounts of stressors, we have more demands, we have more distractions, we're more addicted to attention and going from this thing to that thing. We're in a hurry. But to me, sleep is that magic elixir that we've kind of forgot about until you don't sleep. And then it's really hard to change it. It's really hard to get it back. And so we want to invest in sleep. It's compound interest. It does get harder. It does get more valuable. And so here's my takeaway. Number one, plan and prioritize your sleep. If you want to get 8 hours of sleep, start backwards. When do you have to wake up? If you have to wake up at 6, we really need to start to get to bed at around 10 o'clock to get 8 hours of sleep. Plan it, prioritize it. Number two, the circadian rhythm. Going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, seeing the sunlight. We all go through seasons. This is your circadian rhythm. It's a beautiful orchestra. But if we start to, distract it with artificial lights, overstimulation, not moving our body, not getting up throughout the day, that circadian rhythm can only last for a little while before it starts to break down. Sunlight, that's where we want to get our melatonin, not from a synthetic supplement. And if you're really trying to hack it, I'd recommend a hot shower or hot bath before bed. 65 degrees, make that environment cool. I have what's called a chili pad. You lay on it, it actually cools my side of the bed. Again, we're all different. My wife actually likes it to be hot in the bed and she can sleep fine. If it's hot in the bed, I can't sleep. And so 65 degrees, if you're struggling to sleep, is the magic number. Sometimes all you got to go is from 70 to 69 and it leads to better sleep. Cool environment is key. Caffeine curfew. If you're drinking coffee, if you love coffee, keep loving coffee. Upgrade it. Try to do it better quality. But before noon is really the key, because past noon, you're going to be using that caffeine for energy. And then 6 to 8 hours, it actually takes about 12 hours for that caffeine to get out of the system to help you unwind. And so I see a lot of people, they get tired around 2, 3 p.m. for many different reasons. They use caffeine or something to get them through that, over that mound, and it gives them this energy, and then the second wind hits when they're trying to go to bed. So give yourself that caffeine curfew. Breathing, stillness, white space. Think about your day. What kind of rituals are you creating to set up now so that later you can sleep? So if you spend 8 hours at work or in your work day stressed out, going from meeting to meeting, you're not getting a water break, you're not standing up and moving, you don't have any micro breaks, it's going to be really hard to actually shut it down for an 8-hour period. You may fall asleep because you're exhausted, but chances are you're going to wake up. You have all these different stressors to solve once the body's gotten through that exhaustion period. And the last thing is minerals, or I'm sorry, 2 things, but number 7 is minerals. Magnesium is the relaxation mineral. I love Epsom salts. I love foods with magnesium. And then the last piece, we miss this. When you move your body, you actually start to improve sleep for a couple reasons. Number one, you're allowing the blood flow, circulation, toxicity. You're allowing the mind and the body to connect, but it really helps to relieve stress. So you've heard of these endorphins, you've heard of some of these neurotransmitters. Moving the body is what the mind is meant to do. 10, 15, 20 minutes throughout the day, however you move your body, and it leads to better sleep at night. So that's my sleep presentation. One of my favorite topics to talk about is sleep, because we're sleeping less than 6.5 hours. So Cameron asked about the nap. So if you missed that earlier, I love naps. I have 3 kids. They don't allow me to nap, but actually I try to nap for, once or twice a week if I have the time, especially when I'm traveling, to reset my brain. It's like a micro break. Now, in our society, we haven't really allowed, the workplace to have the naps, but in different countries, they have these nap pods, or different companies, there's the nap pods. Again, I think we all have to take responsibility and say, what do we need to refresh the brain? But naps don't make up for the 8 hours of sleep. They can help to maybe transition us out of that stress response throughout the day. I can get copies of the slides. I actually recorded it, so I can send a actually recording the video. Probably be better. Did I miss any questions? I know there's a couple. Okay, this is a good one. I enjoy reading, but I read through an app on my phone that allows me to check library books. So here's a little bit of something. So if you like to read on your phone or your tablet, you can change the type of light on your phone. And so the more yellow the light, the better it is. So if it's blue and it's super vibrant, that's designed to stimulate us. And so you can actually turn your light temperature, and you can do it at a certain time. So maybe 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. You just automatically change it to be as yellow as possible without with being able to read it. So Lisa, try to do that if you're using your phone to read. Not a problem. Now you guys are rubbing it in. I'll be on daddy daycare while the Masters is going on. Any other questions? And you can unmute, ask the questions. Sometimes a little more fun.
Miranda has a question. Oh, no, that was Megan. If we want to eat foods that are high in magnesium before we go to bed, should we do this right before bed or a couple hours, or does it matter? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I wouldn't get so fixated on like right before bed. So just having a banana before bed isn't going to do anything crazy. But throughout the day, the body starts to reserve these trace minerals, magnesium being one of them. So anytime throughout the day. And remember, it's not necessarily what you eat, it's what you hold on to and absorb. So that's why the supplements aren't going to be the answer long term, because you're taking such a crazy dosage and just hoping that the body can absorb some of it. Versus food, the body knows what to do with food. It's not the nutrient in isolation, it's the nutrient in food. Great question. I think one of the hacks that you can do, though, is that hot shower before bed or the Epsom salt bath before bed. That's something that actually will show better sleep immediately, that sometimes people need that relief from. Imagine this. Imagine you're stressed, you have a lot of things going on, and it's hard for the mind to unwind. But if you took a 20-minute Epsom salt bath or a hot shower and actually transitioned into sleep, that's really what we're meant to do. So electricity is created in, 100 plus years ago, and we were sleeping 10 hours a night. Well, can you imagine at 7 p.m. there's no light, it's just candles? You're going to get sleepy. Well, now that we have artificial lights and TV, and Netflix believes that the number one competition to Netflix is sleep. So we have all these different ways to be to steer our attention, and that's the issue with sleep. You're funny.
Cameron asks, he says he's been hearing more about mouth taping while sleeping. Is there any benefit to this?
Yeah, we kind of have to laugh a little bit that mouth taping is a thing. So I have a book in front of me. It's called Why We Sleep. I recommend it if you really care about sleep, but it's 300 pages and it's kind of boring. But the gist is we need to sleep. Well, another book is called Breathe, James Nestor, and it's 300 pages of why we need to improve breathing. It's kind of boring. But out of that, he was talking about mouth taping, and then there's a whole category of companies that created mouth tape. I think mouth taping can be a tool to kind of demonstrate what happens if we mouth breathe through the night. So if you have sleep apnea or if you snore, the chances are you're mouth breathing. So this helps to regulate the nervous system by not allowing you to mouth breathe. I think the challenge, though, just like the wearables can be too dependent, if you start to need mouth tape to know how to breathe, I think that they're like training wheels for the body. So I'm not a huge fan of mouth tape. I think if you can't learn to breathe through your nose and you continue to mouth breathe. Mouth taping is better than mouth breathing, but I really try to teach people how to do it without the tape, because it is a kind of a literally it is a band-aid. It's training wheels for that. But if you're struggling, you're curious, I think curiosity is really important, so might be worth trying. Any other questions? So next week I'll bring the books for everybody that's put themselves on the list. I'll bring some extra if you didn't get a chance to do that. I can't believe this 6 weeks challenge is almost over. But next week we're going to move the body. Please come if you can. I know everyone's busy. You will not regret moving your body. We never do. But I know that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I mean, not there. I just had a question about sleep music or sleep stories. Is that beneficial or too stimulating to play like while you're trying to sleep?
No, so my dumb alarm clock actually has sleep stories if you want it. I do believe in those. My kids like the sleep stories to put them to bed. They have those they have these little boxes, I forget what they're called, Tony boxes. And they last only 30 minutes and then they turn off. I think they can be great. I love a sound machine. But again, if we have to be dependent on it and so we travel, so just being conscious of, does it really help or is it just something to kind of distract us for a second? But no, I love sound machines. I like sleep stories. I don't really do them for myself, but my kids really like them to kind of unwind. Yeah.
Courtney also had a question. Do you know the difference between belly breathing and chest breathing?
Do I know the difference?
Yes.
Oh.
When it comes to like sleeping, I know it helps with like heart problems and heart palpitations. I struggle with my heart rate. It's either going to be like way above the max or way below, and
when
the
you're
minimum.
when you're sleeping or all the time?
Well, when I'm sleeping, it goes down to like 30. But then this is obviously a problem I speak to my doctor about too.
Sure.
Like I'm not asking
Yeah.
you for medical advice, but I was researching about like the difference between belly breathing and chest breathing, and it was kind of confusing me, so I didn't know if you knew anything about it. But
Yeah, so
that is like thought to help heart palpitations when you're sleeping. So
yeah, we most of us will get some type of heart palpitation in our lifetime. That's not the scariest thing, but so belly breathing is how we're kind of meant to breathe. So we're meant to use the diaphragm to inhale and exhale, and the chest is meant for survival, and they're usually connected to the nose or the mouth. So chest and mouth are very common ways to breathe. So think about a snorer or somebody that actually holds their breath at night. That's, really bad sleep apnea. A belly breather usually uses the nose and the mouth is closed. So if you look at a child, an infant, they're going to be using their belly, not their chest, and they're going to be breathing through their nose, hopefully. And that's why they say for kids to get the pacifier out of the mouth and different formations of the tongue. But in your case, I think the key is just practicing throughout the day, once or twice a day, and then maybe as you're trying to sleep to improve that strength of the diaphragm, that might be helpful. But there is a huge difference between chest breathing and mouth breathing, but it's usually connected to chest breathing and diaphragmatic breathing or belly breathing, but it's usually connected to the nose and the mouth. So chest equals mouth, belly equals nose.
okay, thank you. That was actually very helpful.
Good. Great questions, great commentary. Thanks for rubbing in the food, the masters. What else do you want to throw my way? You're going to throw off my sleep tonight. But no, I'm excited to see everyone next week for a move session. Takeaway, prioritize sleep. If the cancer thing isn't enough, I think the biggest thing is that it really helps our performance in life. physically, mentally, and we're designed to sleep 8 hours a night. I think a giraffe sleeps some of the least amount. I forget all the different bats don't sleep that much. Lions sleep 20 hours a night or 20 hours a day, I guess. So all different animals sleep different times. Humans really need that 8 hours. Okay, go get your BWL Buddha doll that lights up.
That's right. We'll be bringing them next week. If anyone is in the building, we'll be delivering those today if you're here at Rio.